I finally took the rare candy pill. This is actually an antibiotic for my foot fungus. After finally hacking in endless rare candies, I decided to hardcore Nuzlocke my favorite Pokemon game, Sapphire version. I won't bore you with explaining all the rules because most of us at this point wouldn't even click on a hardcore Nuzlocke video if we didn't already have a basic grasp of how it works. And as we go through my journey, I encourage all of you to analyze my Nuzlocke and let me know in the comments what I did well and what I could have done better. Because this is my first time using unlimited candies, I'll also give my thoughts about them towards the end of the video, since I know this is a highly discussed topic in the Nuzlocke community. But let's jump out of the moving truck and get started. After moving to Little Root Town and meeting the neighbors, I went to grab my starter Pokemon. Now Torchic is actually my favorite choice, but I decided to go with Mudkip because it's regarded as the best Hoenn starter due to its type advantage. After saving Professor Birch from a dog and defeating May for the first time, I made my way to Petalburg City to say hi to my dad. Wally caught his Ralts, and then I made a beeline to Rustboro City. The nice thing about having all the rare candies I could ever need was I could skip all the optional trainers, which made this Nuzlocke so much more efficient. On my way to the first gym, I caught Poochyena, Wingull, Wurmple, Talo, Shroomish, and Zigzagoon. As I continue to give encounter updates throughout the video, feel free to use this information and comment below if you think my team could have been optimized better for a specific gym fight. But for my first badge, all I needed was Mudkip to take down Roxanne, and then he evolved into Marshtomp. Before I could head to Dewford Town to take on the second gym, I saved Mr. Briny's Wingull by defeating an Aqua Grunt and then picked up the Pokénav. Even though you can technically delay Brawly's gym, I wanted to fight him as soon as possible so I could continue to increase my level cap. Before taking on the second gym, I caught a Whismur, and that's it. Now Dustox is not a very good Pokemon, but man does he go crazy on Brawly. Its bug and poison typing make it 4 times resistant to fighting moves, and you can just spam confusion until Machop and Makuhita inevitably fall. Another easy gym badge. Once I delivered a letter to Steven, Mr. Briny escorted me to Slateport City. Aside from fighting more Aqua Grunts, Slateport was pretty uneventful, and I made my way north towards Mauville. But before I could try and earn my third badge, I had to battle May again. The second rival fight in the Hoenn games can be pretty tough in a Nuzlocke, but I just force-fed my bird some candies, and Swellow knocked out Grovyle with one wing attack. Before battling Watson, my new encounters were Magikarp, Electrike, and Marill. Marshtomp O-code all of Watson's Pokemon with Soft Sand boosted mud shots, and I obtained the Dynamo badge. Now I could utilize the Rock Smash HM to continue north towards the fourth gym. But in the midst of all this smashing, I ran into a Geodude and nicknamed it the Rock after the same Pokemon from my Leaf Green Hardcore Nuzlocke, so make sure to go watch that after finishing this video. I kept advancing north past the ashy grass into Fall Arbor Town, and then eventually confronted Team Aqua on Mount Chimney. With the help of Breloom and Gyarados, I defeated Archie and proceeded to Lava Ridge Town. My next round of Pokemon I caught during this time were Geodude, Numel, Grimer, Sandshrew, Swablu, Lunatone, Machop, and I picked up the egg by the hot spring. And yes, I took a few minutes to bathe with the old ladies. Don't judge me. Unlike the first 3 gyms, Flannery wasn't gonna be an easy sweep. Although you can't say I didn't try. After taking out her 2 Slugmas with Marshtomp, Torkoal came out. Marshtomp got paralyzed from Body Slam and fell in love with Torkoal, so I switched to Graveler, who also got paralyzed and rolled some pretty wimpy magnitudes. Lunatone and Gyarados tried to finish the battle, but Paralysis and Flannery healing continued to prolong the fight. I tried one more Mud Shot with Marshtomp, but Torkoal got a critical hit Body Slam, and down went my starter Pokemon. Not only was having my first death annoying, but I chose Mudkip because he's the best starter, and now he was dead. It was unlucky, but it was my own fault for not playing around the crit and utilizing Cherry Berries to be held by my Pokemon. Lunatone came in to finish off Torkoal, and I got the Heat badge. I think the lesson here is always take the fighting chicken. Upon exiting Lava Ridge Gym, May gave me the go goggles, whoop-de-doo, and I backtracked to Petalburg City to take on my dad. Now I will admit, I have tried hardcore Nuzlocking Sapphire version before, and both times Norman is where it ended. But now that I didn't have to worry about grinding my Pokemon thanks to the rare candies, I was ready to redeem myself. I had Machoke take out Norman's first slacking, and then he threw out Vigoroth. With Machoke's health being pretty low, I wanted to switch in Breloom, but to avoid Breloom taking facade damage, I pivoted to Lunatone to bait a feint attack, and then Breloom took care of Vigoroth. Gyarados and Graveler knocked out the final slacking, and Norman was defeated. Sorry, Daddy. After earning my 5th gym badge, I was able to get the Surf HM and proceed through the game. But before heading east of Mauville, I helped Watson press a red button and he rewarded me with TM Thunderbolt. I traveled northeast to take down Team Aqua at the Weather Institute, battled May, and received the Devon Scope from Steven. Now that I could access the Fortree City Gym, it was time to earn my 6th gym badge. The new Pokemon I collected before fighting Winona were Voltorb, Tentacool, Oddish, and Castform. But let's be real, I only got Castform so I could take the Mystic Water it was holding. Now, Winona's toughest Pokemon to take down is easily her ace Altaria, so I needed to make sure I was prepared. You can get the Ice Beam TM before the 6th gym, but I wanted to save it until I reached the Elite Four just in case. So instead, I went out of my way to get Swellow burned so he could hit Altaria with a Guts boosted Facade. Unfortunately, it wasn't a one-hit KO, but Swellow managed to survive an Aerial Ace and knock out Altaria the following turn. The rest of the battle was pretty easy thanks to Electrode and Manectric, and I obtained the Feather Badge. Like I mentioned earlier, being able to skip a lot of the random trainer battles helped the Nuzlocke be very efficient, and before I knew it, I was in Lily Cove City. After fighting May for the last time, I went to Mount Pyre to confront Team Aqua again. Archie and his goons ran off, and I received the Blue Orb. Next, I flew over to Slateport to watch Team Aqua steal a submarine so I could access their hideout. I grabbed the Master Ball as I cleared the Aqua hideout and started surfing towards Moss Deep City to take on the 7th gym. Between gyms, I only caught 2 new Pokemon, Shuppet and Girafarig. To prepare for Tate and Liza, I leveled up my Poochyena into a Mightyena, but delayed the evolution so she could learn Crunch first. Doing this helped me stay within the level cap while teaching a very important move for taking out Psychic types. So here's how the battle went. I spammed Crunch and Surf until I won. To advance the story, I surfed south of Mossdeep and entered the seafloor cavern to fight Team Aqua one last time. When I was fighting Archie, I stupidly locked myself into Rollout with a Azumarill and she was unable to defeat Crobat. It's not like a Azumarill would have been an Elite Four Pokemon, but it still kind of annoyed me because it was another death I could have easily avoided. After the Red Orb triggered Kyogre to fly away and start a torrential downpour, I made my way to Sootopolis City and the Cave of Origin. Now this is where I was even more stupid. Long story short, I'm not allowed to catch legendaries for my Nuzlocke, and I didn't realize I could just run away from Kyogre until it killed my Gloom and Manectric. Or I could have just used my Master Ball and threw Kyogre into the PC. 2 more deaths that made me feel like a complete buffoon. And losing Manectric right before the water gym was less than optimal. Despite all of this, I moved on to try and earn my final badge. The only new Pokemon I caught between my 7th and 8th badge was Zubat and Clamperl, and the main reason for that was I decided to skip a bunch of water routes and just go get those encounters later. I carefully navigated the gym's ice puzzle and was ready to battle Wallace. The fight was pretty easy until Milotic came out. I was able to get his health down with Electrode, but I didn't want to risk hitting Milotic into healing range, so I lowered his defense with Leer until Gyarados was frozen. I tried switching to Exploud to get off a Hyper Beam, but Milotic knocked her out with Water Pulse, so it was up to Breloom. I risked the slightly inaccurate Sky Uppercut, but it hit and I received the Rain Badge. With all 8 badges in my possession, my last challenge before fighting the Elite Four would be Victory Road. Not too much really happened in Victory Road, although I did accidentally run into an optional Cool Trainer when I sped up the emulator. And then this guy's Muck proceeds to nearly knock out my Altaria along with most of my other Pokemon. Luckily, my Tentacruel came in and finished off Muck. I easily could have wiped there, and that would have made me furious. Losing to an optional Cool Trainer probably just would have ended my Nuzlocke career. Because of this scare, when I got to the end of Victory Road, I made sure to take a quick look at Wally's team before starting the final battle with him. I had an answer for every Pokemon he threw out, so after Graveler took out Wally's Magneton, I had officially made it to the Elite Four. But a quick shout out to my Tentacruel again, because she was definitely the Victory Road MVP, and my Nuzlocke very well could have ended without some clutch battling by her. My final encounters for the Nuzlocke were Makuhita, Glacia, Spheal, Sharpedo, Wailmer, and I hatched Wynot from the egg I got earlier. These were really nice Pokemon to pick up because I actually ended up using 3 of them on my Elite Four team. Speaking of which, I decided my Elite Four team would be Walrein, Altaria, Electrode, Camerupt, Hariyama, and Wobbuffet. Now I want you to take a good look at this team, and the Pokemon I have left in the PC. Do you think I made the right choices, or did I stupidly leave out a great Pokemon in the box? Let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious if I assembled the best team possible to finish out this hardcore Nuzlocke. For my level cap, I chose 58 because that's the champion's highest level Pokemon. I believe some, if not most people, go based off the 4th member's ace, but I went with Steven's Metagross anyway. And if you have a problem with that, make sure to like the video and comment below your favorite Pokemon waifu, because I know that you have one. The first member standing between me and victory was Sydney. Walrein one-shot Mightyena and Cacturne, while Electrode took out Sharpedo with a single Thunderbolt. Despite being weak to Dark types, I switched to Wobbuffet because Sydney's Absol actually doesn't have any Dark-type attacks. I brought in Camerupt on the Fake Out and proceeded to obliterate Shiftry with an Eruption. The first member was down with only 4 battles left. Similarly to the first fight, I led with Walrein when going up against Phoebe. Her first Dusclops went down in 1 turn thanks to Curse, and then Camerupt knocked out her first Banette with 2 Eruptions. Walrein was able to dodge a crit on the second Dusclops and beat it with a few Surfs. I had Electrode come in to deal some Thunderbolts and defeat Sableye. 2 more Thunderbolts later and Phoebe's last Banette went down, winning me the fight. Now I was a little nervous for the next battle because Glacia can be really annoying to deal with, and believe me when I say I would have loved to have the fighting chicken for this battle. Regardless, I led with Hariyama, who was on my team specifically for Glacia. Unfortunately, when I used Fake Out on her Glalie, I didn't realize Inner Focus would prevent flinching, so it felt like a waste of a turn. I managed to avoid a potential freeze and got off a Brick Break to move on to Glacia's first Celio. One of her Celios actually has Attract, and I stupidly didn't realize I'd be able to tell which is which because it's the level 52 Celio that has it. So instead of using Bulk Up on the first Celio, I used it on the second one, and Hariyama was infatuated. I guess Hariyama likes him thick. I didn't really have a better option, and I knew if Hariyama could fight through the love just 1 time, he'd take out Celio. After tanking a Blizzard and being immobilized 2 turns in a row, he finally punched his girlfriend on the 3rd attempt. Remember kids, never punch your girlfriend in real life. The second Glalie also went down in 1 Brick Break, and Wobbuffet defeated Walrein. My Pokemon were hit with quite a few Ice Beams and Blizzards during this battle, so I really lucked out because nobody ended up getting frozen. Up next was Drake, and he has some really strong dragons, so I needed to meticulously create a foolproof line to defeat him. This was it. I was 1 battle away from completing my hardcore Nuzlocke and becoming the champion. Steven's team has quite a bit of coverage, so I needed to carefully think about my strategy. I figured leading with Electrode would be good to quickly knock out Skarmory to potentially avoid Toxic and or Spikes. I thought the AI would go for Spikes since it's technically a ground type move, but after surviving my first Thunderbolt, it used Steel Wing instead. Electrode eventually took down the Metal Bird, and then Aggron came in. Despite taking a good chunk of damage, Hariyama held his ground and knocked out Aggron with 1 Brick Break. I spammed Surf a bunch with Walrein to get past Armaldo and Claydol, and next up was Cradily. Wobbuffet managed to take down Cradily despite getting poisoned, and last was Metagross. Now Metagross is extremely tough to defeat, even when it's a 6v1. He has 4 very powerful moves, and I wasn't really sure if I even had an answer for him. But I created a plan. I sacrificed Wobbuffet to get a free switch to Altaria. But Evan, Altaria matches up horribly against Metagross. What were you thinking? I'll tell you what I was thinking. 1 more sacrifice. Altaria survived a Meteor Mash and then used Perish Song, which causes the user and opponent to automatically faint in 3 turns. I stalled a little bit with Fly, and both Pokemon eventually fell, winning me the battle and completing the hardcore Nuzlocke. My biggest critique I have for myself is definitely losing Pokemon that didn't need to die. And if RNG would have went against me a little bit more, I easily could have lost this challenge in Victory Road or the Elite Four. But I managed to win. win, and I'm still really proud of myself for completing this Nuzlocke. When I beat the hardcore Nuzlocke in Leaf Green version, I was kind of cheeky with setup moves and better held items. So while it was still legitimate, I think Sapphire was more challenging and therefore more satisfying to complete. And after using infinite rare candies for the first time, I'd say I don't have a problem with them being used in Nuzlockes. I understand grinding in the wild and fighting extra trainers for experience can be considered a big part of the Nuzlocke, but we all know how tedious that can be, especially if you're playing on cartridge. Thanks to rare candies, it roughly only took me about 8 hours to complete this Nuzlocke, and that was really nice. I also felt more encouraged to use Pokemon I otherwise wouldn't have, because I would have had to spend more time grinding them up. Yes, grinding does add risk, which you could argue makes the run more challenging, but just like bronchitis, not everyone has time for that. I think it's completely fair for people to have their own preference, but I do have a problem with people trying to say a Nuzlocke isn't legitimate if infinite rare candies are used. While it can make things easier to some extent, I believe most players do it to save time and have more fun since they can focus on the important battles in their respective game. Lastly, I think the insanely hard ROM hacks like Emerald Kaizo or Run and Bun pretty much need rare candies unless you want your run to last for years. But anyways, that's gonna about wrap up this video. Like I mentioned a few times, let me know in the comments how I could have played this Nuzlocke better. And if you want to see how my Leaf Green hardcore Nuzlocke went, I'll put that right here so you can check that out. I really appreciate you all watching, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.